This is Romusa Media. Today we're here with Atlanta author Kara Ireland.
My earliest memory of writing is probably when I was like 8. I wrote the story called The Bald Paintbrush. I was a really weird kid. And it was literally the story about this paintbrush that had one bristle. And it was so weird. We won't talk about it though.
Is there a history of writing in your family?
No, I'm the only author so far. You know, I could inspire other people, but I come from a family of teachers mostly, so everybody's in education.
How do you feel that informed your writing?
I guess I have a greater grasp on grammar and mechanics than most people would, because both my parents are teachers and my whole entire family are educators, so it pretty much breeded a intellectual, I guess.
What do you remember about the first book you wrote?
The first book I wrote that I got published, or the one that I actually just wrote?
The first book that you published.
First book I published. The first book I published was this one right here. It's called Journals, and I remember everything. I remember the day that I posted it. I got my start on Wattpad.com, and the day that I posted it, it spread like wildfire throughout the fandom. I wrote it Fifth Harmony fan fiction at first, and everybody just kind of knew my name and face just because of who I was in the fandom. And so when I started writing my story, everybody just kind of got on board with it really quickly. And I wrote it in I wrote the first chapter in about a day and a half, and it was came pretty naturally for me because it was a real story, so it was kind of interesting.
What was the first book you read and made you realize you wanted to be a writer and write your own book?
Probably David Levithan's Every Day. That's my favorite book. I read it before I started writing, but just his words and the way that his prose is just so amazing to me. I love the way that he curates every single word in a sentence, and it all has meaning. It's really something that inspired me to do the same thing. I want to mimic his style, if anything.
How do you find inspiration for your novels?
Partially real life experience, partially things that I wish I could read in media. If it doesn't exist, create it. So I just kind of take what my life experience has offered me, fashion that into something that's half parts fictional, half parts reality, and just kind of go from there.
Why and how has Etsy been a part of your writing and publishing?
Well, at first I started, when I published my book, I published it on Amazon only, and I got a lot of success there, but I was only getting 60% of the royalty, which is not about the money for me really, just the fact that people are reading my books at all just really makes me happy. But my dad, being the businessman and the person behind the numbers and all that kind of stuff, he was like, it'd be more beneficial for you to create a store that you are running, that all the transactions go through you get to see the book, you ship out the copy, you do everything. And so my brother and my dad own a shirt company called JDI Concepts, and I was trying to kind of mimic what they were doing with their store, because they also have a lot of success, and they were using Etsy. So I was going to use Etsy to sell my books personally and personalize every copy, get an autograph on the cover or inside the book, and a little thank you note just to thank the people that are getting me to where I'm going so far. So that's how Etsy's worked for me.
What was it like writing your last novel from its beginning to the end?
Well, Ghost is my last book, and that's this one right here. It's my latest release. I released it March 1st. And when I was writing Ghost, the first run of Ghost was written when I was 16 years old. And I posted it on Wattpad as well, but it didn't get nearly as much traction as the rest of my books. So I kind of took that in stride, and I wrote it when I was 16, so life and my perceptions and everything was totally different. It's really the kind of story that I grew into that story. I kind of had to figure out what the story was that I wanted to tell, how rehabilitation works. It's basically like a heartbreak story that gets rehabilitated in a sense. I was kind of the trope for the main character. Her name's Nguyen. Yeah, when I was 16, I wrote that story just because I was like a little heartbroken, angsty teenager. And then I grew up, and then now I'm a heartbroken, angsty adult. And I had a better take on it than I did originally. And so actually writing the book, it took a lot of editing and reviewing and like rewriting. I rewrote most of this book. Like the concepts are the same, but most of the actual writing, almost every sentence has been rewritten in for the better. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Who are your writing heroes?
David Levithan, for sure. He's my favorite author. I've read, I think, like 8 out of 15 of his books or so. Yeah, he's the one that inspires me the most. I also really like Eden Lepucki, Carolyn Kepnes, and Adam Silvera.
If you weren't writing, what would you be doing?
Originally, I didn't want to be an author or a writer at all. I wanted to be a singer. Funny how that happened, but I really wanted to be a singer, so I assumed that I would probably be making music. I'd probably be majoring in music rather than English, and probably making covers rather than writing books. So, I don't know.
What advice do you have for people wanting to be writers?
As daunting as a blank page is, you just gotta go for it. Like, if you wait for the time to write where you get inspired, you're never really gonna get anything done. You have to have mind over matter when it comes to that, because if I stopped and only wrote something when I had something to write and had something to say, I would never write anything. So even if you don't have anything to say, you think you can curate anything out of nothing. So just get started. That's really it.
What's next for you?
I just released I just launched my brand new website called kaleesebooks.com, and maybe blogging. I think blogging is what's next for me, because I'm kind of burnt out with writing novels. It's a really long and extended process that takes a lot of effort. And it's like a really more serious thing than writing a blog or writing poetry or whatever. So I've launched my new website, Kaylee's Books, and it features my blog posts, my poetry, spoken word, any kind of thing that I've written that's not like an actual novel. I'm kind of going to feature that. So I might be turning my attention to blog writing after this.
This is Ramusa Media. We are with Atlanta author Kara Ireland. Thank you so much for your time.
My name is Kara Ireland, and this is my 5th book titled Ghosts. You can find it on etsy.com/kaleesebooks or on kaleesebooks.com.